Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Teresa.
Hi.
So I have a question for you because I've been pondering this ever since we talked about it the other day, which is contracts. Life contracts, meaning what kind of contract do we have with God, universe, whomever, whatever you call it. What does that mean? I have so many questions. You know way so much more than I do. However, since I've been processing this and since I've been thinking about it and reading about it, I think we may call it's we're talking about the same thing, but we call it something different. So I want to
Mhm.
see where we go with this. So tell me
Okay.
all about contracts.
Well, first, I personally call it a soul contract. There's no really difference in it, I guess. But I think it's the way that I look at it, and that's the reason I call it that. And I was first introduced to the contract word as far as our life goes when I had an astrology reading back in like the early 20s, 2020. Um, and she was talking about in this astrology reading how before we ever come here, what she says, what we do, what we call a bus stop stops, like at each sign, in each of the signs, Aquarius, all the different signs. You stop in each one of them. Each of the houses is what they're called. And you determine what you need to learn in this lifetime. And I have to back up just for a second because in the way that I look at this is that there has to be reincarnation. There has to be that we come back, more than once, because I think each time we focus on something different.
Hmm.
And I think that that is because a lot of times it can take a whole lifetime, sometimes just to learn one lesson. Now, there are times that we come here with more than one lesson to learn, and it depends on how life hits us and how we handle things because we have that free will on how many we may or may not accomplish. But I feel like that it's our soul determining what it is that we want to experience and actually go through. And I'll give you, there's an example that I have used before. And because people always say, why does this happen? Why has this happened? People get sick or accidents happen. And I can give a personal experience of this. My niece died at the age of 15. And this was before I was really into this. And I said the same things, why? She was the flower in our family. I mean, she was just an amazing person. Why was she taken from us? I learned later that it was because her soul wanted to know what it felt like to experience a short life.
Hmm.
And so that's what her contract was. It didn't have anything to do, I just got chills. It didn't have anything to do with the fact that she, wanted to leave the people that she contracted with in this lifetime. Nothing of that. It has to do with our own soul and what we need and want to learn, for our benefit. I feel like, and I've also used this as an example. Sorry, I'm talking so much, but I feel like our soul is like this pie, and each slice of the soul is each lifetime that we live. And each time we experience different things to make that pie complete
Hmm.
with all the experiences and all the things that we need to learn as a person.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think it's interesting you say that, you can learn multiple lessons. It could be one lesson. It could be a series of lessons. It's not just, at least again, I've very limited knowledge, but I sort of feel this is that it's not that you're going to learn your lesson and then die. Like it's not you're here to learn your lesson and that's it. That's all you got to do. You just sit back and relax and you've learned your lesson. So like moving on. And the other thing that is mind-boggling, because when you really start thinking about this metaphysical and this world, it's yes, you have this soul contract, but you also have free will. And so when those two things come together, it hurts your brain to a certain extent,
Yes.
because yeah, if you have this, you think if you have this contract and this is supposed to happen, but then yet something else happens and you decide that you want to do this, then what happens? I mean, it's like it makes your head spin.
I totally understand it, and that's why some of the lessons take, longer time because things interfere with it, or, the free will, the choices that we make sometimes aren't in line with the lessons that we're supposed to learn. So then we have to like reel it back in, get back to where I mean, so it is a back and forth really with, because yeah. And no, you don't. Actually, I had said that to you at one time. What do you get to the end of your lessons and then you're just done?
You're
Yeah.
done.
Is that the time you die? No, absolutely not. I mean, I'm sure that we know before we ever come here the amount of time that we have. We don't know the free will and the choices that we're going to make that might deter us,
Right.
but we do set in place those things that, we want to learn and get out of this lifetime.
And I think too, there's times where an easier for at least for me or anybody that's just now sort of hearing this is that you heard the term old soul, someone is an old soul, and you sort of see them as, you may see this 5-year-old child playing, but they act more mature and they've lived lives, right? Like they've experienced things. But even as a 5-year-old, you're like, wait a minute, what, and I think that goes back to the lessons that you've learned in previous lives,
Yep.
that this 5-year-old is, I know that there's this kid on one of the social media, I think he's on multiple social media platforms, and he's 8. And he's an amazing designer. I mean, just a clothing
Wow.
designer. And he knew that he would say things that he was Gucci, the designer Gucci.
Mm,
And there was no way he would know things about Gucci and Gucci's life unless he was potentially reincarnated as him.
hmm
He would spout these original names of family members at 4 or 5 years old, and his parents are like, "How do you know that? Like you don't read. Like you wouldn't know that. You don't Google search." And he's already been on like New York Fashion Week and things like that because he's such a skilled designer. And it's like, whoa, what if he really is? Like, like,
I know.
because
That's true.
people like that will reincarnate. I mean, like, if you think about people that like Oprah, for an example, she will reincarnate when we don't know, but like, whoa, like,
I
it's just
know. I know.
mind-boggling. And the
It,
things that brilliant people, Einstein, things that scientists know, and they're bringing on to a different generation. And so it's mind-boggling and fascinating and awesome all at the same time.
yeah, I totally agree. I didn't hear that particular story, but I heard another one of a small child, the same scenario, but he was like a World War I fighter. And so he was like drawing pictures of, like airplanes crashing, and, there were other things like knowing people and stuff like that. And they figured out who he was, and they showed him family members, and yeah, it was crazy. And you can't see something like that and not understand that that
Right.
absolutely exists. It's
Mhm.
funny because I had run across, I don't usually listen to very many things, but I had run across, who was that genius that just, he hasn't been gone very long, and he was in a wheelchair and he talked through I can't,
uh, uh, Stephen Hawking.
yes, yes, Stephen Hawkins. I had run across something where it said that he was talking about the afterlife and reincarnation. I was like, "Oh, I would love to hear what he has to say on it."
Yeah.
And so I went and listened to it, and he said in his speech thing that I listened to that there is no reincarnation, it's one and done. And the next thought I had in my head was, "Wow, I wonder what he thinks now."
I mean, that's a valid thought. That's a valid question.
Because I have no doubt in my mind that it's not one and done.
Yeah,
Not when, it may be for some people, maybe they
sure,
just want to come one time,
sure, sure.
absolutely, but to my core. And, when you see stuff like that, we're children, there's no way they can know anything like that. And yet they do,
Right.
and so,
And I
yeah,
don't and I don't have kids and I'm not around a whole bunch of kids. However, if you do have kids who are, I know that I had a make believe friend. What do we
imaginary.
Mary, thank you, imaginary friend growing up. I don't know now looking back on it, I don't think it was an imaginary friend. I think it was part of my team.
Mhm.
She was clear as day to me, clear as day. And no one ever discouraged me to play with her, but never encouraged me either. Like we just didn't talk about it.
Mhm.
But if you have a kid who, because again, and I have experience from when my dad passed, the veil between it's so thin, and he saw people who had already passed over. And so I think kids are so unobstructed and that veil is so thin. So, if they are telling you, hey, I have a little friend, or I have this angel, or if I have, whomever, listen to them maybe. And, obviously monsters in the closet is a conversation kind of thing, but, talk to them and see what they say, because who knows, you may have the kid who draws the planes or does the design work or could be a pianist or
Mhm.
whatever. And so I mean, I think that's fascinating to not sort of shut that down, but to let them talk about that and express what they're seeing and feeling.
Yeah. And the one other thing that I wanted to mention with the contracts is that the other thing is that before we ever come here, we determine who we want to live this lifetime with, who we want to be connected to, who we want to go through it with, as far as choosing, our family and stuff like that, and friends, and we make those connections before we ever come here. And that's why you'll run into someone and you'll just feel like you know them,
Mm.
you might know them from another lifetime, you go through different lifetimes together and
Yeah.
build that bond with each other and want to continue on with that. So, that's kind of, I've done that many, many times, run into someone and it's just like, it's an instant connection and you're just like, how's that possible? But yeah, that's how it's possible. It's not the first lifetime you've known
That's right.
them.
Did you pull a card for us?
I did pull a card and I pulled it from my Raise Your Vibration deck. Let me grab the book here real quick.
Kyle Gray.
Kyle Gray.
May his mother rest in peace. She just passed a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
Hmm.
bless him. And I thought this was wonderful. It popped out when I was shuffling. Let me get it in there. Oh, goodness.
This is it. See this from a higher perspective. Yep.
Can't make that up. And
Uh-uh.
it's so true. We don't want to have our mind closed-minded of, our generation, especially, I think, I know I was, we were raised in more of a religious, and I know both of my parents, there's just no way you can talk to the other side. That's just impossible, blah, 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 but open up your mind and see things from a higher perspective, and you'll be surprised at how much it opens up to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, everybody, if you have any questions or comments, make sure you type those below. Teresa and I pay attention to those and reply as needed. And if you like, please like and subscribe. And all of our information for both of our groups, Teresa and I both run a group on Facebook, and you're welcome to join us over there. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and start thinking about some contracts and see where that might have come in play for your life. See you, everybody.
Bye.